The UFC just announced some new fights that we've all been asking for. We've been asking for Jones and Aspinall. We've been asking for Topuria Makhachev. And Dana White just gave a big announcement. And I'm just going to hear what he has to say. Let's see what the fights are.
The new main event for Kansas City is going to be 5 rounds between Ian Garry and Carlos Prates.
That's a good fight. That's not the only announcement. That actually is a pretty good fight. But what else does he have?
316. UFC 316 is at the Prudential Center in New Jersey, June 7th. And the main event is Merab versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. Rob's on a 12-fight win streak. Sean's coming back. Co-main event.
Women's bantamweight champion Juliana Pena is taking on Kayla Harrison.
Yeah! All right. Sean O'Malley, the number 1 contender. You know what? You got to give O'Malley some credit. He's been doing a ton of work to get back to the title shot. He just beat Jan in the rematch. He took out Umar Nurmagomedov, even knocked out Davey Grant. Either way, O'Malley's on a 3-fight win streak. You kind of got to give him the shot. And of course, Kayla Harrison and Juliana Pena, the fight heard around the world, the one that we've all been waiting for. I'm really looking forward to these, man. Really looking forward to these. O'Malley and Merab. The first fight absolutely fucking sucked. The worst fight that Merab has had since the Aldo fight, right? And we all know that if Sean O'Malley can't knock him out in the first round, even though O'Malley did win the 5th, to be honest, even though we won the 5th, we know that O'Malley's going to slow down massively after one grappling exchange. And if he doesn't KO Merab in the first round, it's going to be the exact same fight because Merab can't finish O'Malley because O'Malley's grappling is just good enough for him not to get finished. So that means that if O'Malley doesn't get the KO, which obviously the UFC wants since they're putting him right back in there. I mean, to be honest, as I said, man, he's really had to work a little bit too hard for this one. 3-0 since the loss. It's just going to suck again. And I can't wait for this. There will be no hype in the build-up. Merab Dvalishvili and O'Malley, there's literally no animosity that those guys have for each other, right? They're all buddy-buddy. They're all friendly. They were at the PI the other week and they were hanging out, chopping it up. So not only is the build-up going to be lame, there's no trash talk. The first time Merab, you know how Merab is. Merab doesn't really know what to think of anyone that makes a little snide remark about him. So he is always going to be a little bit angry at that stuff. And O'Malley was cracking some wise cracks, making fun of his face and all this stuff. And now that they're friendly and they're cool with each other, none of that's going to get under Merab's skin, and we're not going to get an angry Merab in the build-up to this like we did in the build-up to the Umar fight where Merab was saying, you have to be man first. And O'Malley, O'Malley's totally off social media. He's gone, he's going in dark. And so he's not going to promote himself at all. The fans themselves don't give a fuck about this fight. We don't care one bit, dude. Not one bit. Okay? We only wanted to see O'Malley and Jan too, which we already saw. O'Malley obviously knocked him out, because how else would he have earned this rematch if he hadn't knocked out Merab? I'm sorry. How would he have earned this fight with Merab if he didn't go on a crazy win streak, right? I mean, Merab defended his belt since then. There are some other contenders, right? It's kind of interesting. You could have given Pantoja a chance. Yeah, so the fans aren't going to be hyped for it. O'Malley's not going to be promoting it. Merab has no issue with O'Malley anymore. There's no animosity. There's no intensity to this. And the fight itself, like the stylistic matchup, is boring every single time unless Merab, Merab's not that boring, to be honest. He's not that boring. The first fight wasn't terribly boring. It's just that, Merab doesn't have the best ground and pound, and I thought that if he were to get O'Malley out of there in the first couple of rounds last time, that we would have seen him like throwing O'Malley outside of the octagon, and it would have been the worst loss we could ever imagine. But O'Malley actually did a little bit better than we expected, and we know that his grappling is at least good enough for him to survive. So it's just going to be one of these lackluster decisions. And if O'Malley gets the KO, let's stop bullshitting around. If O'Malley gets the KO, it's one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, but he didn't really have to work his way back up. So you just know the UFC is going to give him 10 chances if that's what it takes. They'll give him 10 consecutive title fights if that's what it takes for him to KO Merab. And so when it actually happens, it feels less special. Okay? And because he hasn't actually had to fight anyone else and earn a title shot again, because let's be honest, they rushed him the first time, it's just not that interesting. There's no hype. We don't feel like O'Malley's back. He has it. Not at all. And I actually don't like this at all for Merab. Not because I don't think he'll win. I just think, like, actually, Merab wanted to fight O'Malley, to be fair to him. He actually wanted to fight O'Malley. He's been saying that he wants the big money fight just because O'Malley will bring in a little bit more eyes, let's be honest. But, yeah, this sucks, man. I wanted to see Merab versus Pantoja, and I wanted to see O'Malley versus Jan, or O'Malley versus Umar, or O'Malley versus Sandhagen. There were 3 amazing matchups that you could have made for O'Malley, and Merab just fought. Like, this guy fought a couple of months ago. O'Malley hasn't fought since September, right? I mean, you could have done a number 1 contenders fight, and if O'Malley wins, then we'll actually be excited for his return to fight Merab. And in the meantime, you could have done 2 legends. Merab, the GOAT of his division, versus Pantoja, the GOAT of his division. I'm just joking. He's not the GOAT of his division yet. Pantoja, that is. Merab is. But, yeah, this is a disappointing announcement. This was my worst fear. And I guess that means Pantoja's going to be fighting like Kai Kara France or something. Because Pantoja's active, and even though we want to see Manel Kape and Kai Kara France, I guess we'll never see that fight because the UFC just doesn't recognize that that's the fight that we all want for whatever reason. So yeah, UFC 316 has no hype. You just know because there are 2 title fights that they're not going to stack it. And it's going to be Juliana Pena, Kayla Harrison in the co-main event. And then underneath that, it'll be like Muslim Salikov, Li Jing Liang Part 2. That's probably what we're going to get. Yeah, I guess that means that we're going to see Jan versus Umar, which is literally the one that nobody asked for. Nobody wants to see Jan versus Umar. We want a Jan redemption arc. We want Jan in a striking battle against O'Malley for 5 rounds. We want a layup for Jan, okay? He's already had 2 tough fights in a row. Figgy, to be honest, is not the toughest fight. Figgy's a tough out, but we all kind of thought he would win that one. But he had to beat Song, and remember that was when Jan was going on a downwards slide, and some people were doubting him in the Song fight. That's literally the only matchup to make because Corey Sandhagen is fighting Figueiredo, so we're going to see Jan versus Umar, and Jan might lose. And then, yeah, you can kiss the O'Malley rematch goodbye. So, unless Umar beats Jan and Merab beats O'Malley, maybe we can see it. But still, the whole bantamweight division is cooked. There's really not even a lot of hype for Jan versus Umar. Like, we just saw the brother-brother matchup with Umar and Merab. I know they're on different sides of the cliffs, different sides of the mountains, but now we're going to have to see Jan, man. But I don't want to see Jan fight Umar, bro. We don't need to see that, all right? I just don't like that matchup because I'm a Jan fan, all right? Who do I think is going to win this? I think that we'll probably see the exact same fight, the exact same one. And I actually think Merab's going to be cracking O'Malley. He told O'Malley in their face-to-face on like O'Malley's vlog about a couple weeks ago that he's improving his striking, that he'll want to strike with him. And I don't think he'll actually do that. I don't think his coaches will let him do that. But I actually think that Merab's stand-up is getting a little bit better. We saw how he did okay against Umar, who's a much worse striker than O'Malley, but still not much worse. He's just worse than O'Malley. Maybe Merab will crack O'Malley and get some respect on the feet as well. But there's just zero hype to this, right? I mean, who was excited when Dana White announced that? Nobody wants this at all. The only people that want this fight are Schmitty and the boys, and, O'Malley's team is family. Merab probably wants it because it's an easy fight, but fans don't want it. It's just not interesting. It's the wrong decision, and they could have had a much bigger card if they had just done O'Malley and Jan 5-round feature fight on the exact same card as Merab fighting the flyweight champion moving up. So yeah, the other fight that's actually really sick is Ian Garry and Carlos Prates. This is an amazing matchup. So Jamal Hill fell out. We no longer have Jamal Hill and Khalil Roundtree to headline the Kansas City card. And of course, Jeff Neal pulled out of the Carlos Prates fight, unfortunately. That, in my opinion, was like the third best fight on that entire card behind Mitchell, Gene Silva, Volkanovski, Diego Lopez. And that was like a close third. That was an amazing stylistic matchup. Even better than Garry versus Prates, because you just know Prates and Jeff Neal were not going to grapple. Jeff Neal can clinch every once in a while, but that was going to be a striking-only matchup between two extremely dangerous strikers that are going for the KO, that hit really hard, right? You know, shoulder man style with Jeff Neal and the Anderson Silva style in Carlos Prates. The Garry matchup is not as great, but it's more hype in a way just because it's a higher ranked fighter in Ian Garry who just fought for the undisputed number one contenders fight against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Like, that was the number one contenders fight. Garry lost. You know, he did well. He impressed a lot of people with how he was able to almost submit Shavkat and win a couple of rounds. And you know, it's a great fight because it's higher ranked and there's more at stake. But I think stylistically, there's a chance that we could see Garry go to the grappling, look for a takedown on Prates, whose grappling has not been tested. And to be fair, the fighting nerds have really good takedown defense from what I've seen so far. It's not like people are shooting on Baralho or whatever, but Silva, pretty good takedown defense. He was shucking off Drew Dober like he was nothing. Who else do we have? I mean, we really haven't seen Mauricio Ruffy have his takedown defense tested, but they have good takedown defense. But you just know Garry could potentially take him down, take his back, sort of stink it up a little bit. Maybe he'll actually get himself a submission. That might not be that likely, but I mean, there's more of a chance of that happening. And if you look at the way Garry sort of played the last fight against Shavkat, he played it very safe, not taking a lot of risks. I don't see the same high output striker that I used to in Ian Garry, which is what I've sort of been disappointed with in his most recent fights, just because I think he's become a little bit less entertaining as he's moved up the rankings, as he fights more dangerous punchers, and he himself doesn't have a lot of pop, and his speed is sort of declining a little bit because of the diet, in my opinion. I think that's really what it is. He looked a lot faster way back in the day, but he plays it more safe these days. You know, he was a bit of a pop shotter, right? A bit of a sharpshooter, you know, like a bit of a Sandhagen in the later rounds against Shavkat Rakhmonov, right? Just sort of parrying and working the jab, sort of pop shotting. And I think that we could see an Ian Garry stinky decision, okay? And I hope that's not the case, because Carlos Prates can test him when it comes to the range. And he's a high output striker. And but Shavkat Rakhmonov is a guy that is capable of fighting at range. And that wasn't the banger that we expected, right? That wasn't the war that we expected on the feet, because Ian Garry was very defensively sound, which is credit to him. I'm not saying that Ian Garry's not a great fighter. He is a great fighter. But will this be this like high output war, right? I was about to say high intensity war, like, you know, this is high intensity interval training or some shit. But like, the point that I'm making is I'm a little worried that this is not going to live up to the expectations for at least what we were expecting with Carlos Prates' next fight, because we had the Jeff Neal fight, and that just had a war written all over it, a guaranteed KO written all over it. I think that Prates could definitely lay Ian Garry out. But you know what? Even though he got cracked a couple times by Shavkat, Ian Garry has an underrated chin. We used to say he's got a pea head, he's got this tiny head, and he's going to get chinned easily. He doesn't look like he could take a shot, but he can actually take a punch. But Carlos Prates hits different. You know, he's not Ngannou. He's not going out there and KOing everyone with the first strike he lands, although there have been a couple of moments where he barely grazed Neil Magny and knocked him out cold, face planted him. But then you have the fights with guys like, I forget his name, the guy that I said should fight, Muslim Salikov, Li Jingliang. Well, Li Jingliang has a granite chin too, but, you know, you've had fights where, you know, he's sort of going tit for tat a little bit. I don't know who wins this. This is a really close fight. I think that I don't mind an Ian Garry decision. unfortunately, because I know if he's going to win a decision, it's more than likely going to include some grappling. And, not saying he's a boring grappler, but we've not seen him get a submission yet. And if he doesn't get a submission or a finish, it's just going to be one of those like stalling out type of grappling performances. We could see that, but I really hope that we get a striking battle. And if we do get a striking battle, I think that Carlos Prates could chin Ian Garry. Carlos Prates really does have aura, okay? And a big part of that is because he's highlight reeling people. I mean, that most of the fighting nerds are. Gene Silva, guys like, Mauricio Ruffy. But then you have Prates, who's actually doing it to higher levels of competition, Like Li Jing Liang, he might be a little older these days, but he is a gritty, decent boxer who's very dangerous in his own right. And Carlos Prates flatlined him, Neil Magny, crafty vet, flatlined him. We don't really see a lot of people flatline Neil Magny, okay? We've not seen that a whole lot. I mean, I know that he got finished in his last couple fights, but before those two fights, like he would take losses, but the last guy to KO him before those two losses was like Santiago Ponzinibbio way back in the day. So Prates is knocking out these like decent fighters, And he's got the Anderson Silva catch you out of nowhere, like checkmate type of KOing, like type of KO power, but also technique, right? Like he'll do a step in knee to the solar plexus and it takes the wind out of you and you just go down. Or he grazes you with a right hand and you face plant on the canvas. He's got this weird power with this Anderson Silva level of like, one shot. He's like a sniper, bro. We don't need to glaze. We don't need to glaze. But you get what I'm saying. He's like a sniper. He's like a modern day Anderson Silva with tons of power. But the grappling's not been tested yet. Ian Garry can test the grappling, and Ian Garry is better at keeping distance than some of these other fighters that Prates has KO'd. So it's actually a really interesting fight because it's a big step up in competition. Will Prates' aura carry him through this? Will his Anderson Silva 2.0 aura carry him through? Or will Ian Garry show him that there are levels, right? Like the levels to the onion that Volkanovski was telling me about that took place in the Max fight. There were levels, layers. Not levels, but layers. You get to one layer, you get to the second layer. After that second round with Max, they were at like layer number 5 of the onion. Okay? And that's when Max started to cry, man. That onion, Volk started chopping up that onion, Max started crying. That was the third round of the trilogy. But you sort of get the point. Dude, this is a fucking sick fight. This is a great fight. Way better than O'Malley and Merab. This is how the fights should be made. By real fans. Like, in no world should I be way more excited for what is not even a number one contenders fight. This is like one off from a number one contenders fight, but I'm more hyped for this. To see Ian Garry, who had a relatively boring fight in his last outing, fight Carlos Prates than I am for Merab and O'Malley too. Supposedly, if the biggest superstar at bantamweight, the Sugar Show. If you are what you say you are, I'm more hyped for Ian Garry versus Prates than the Sugar Show versus the bantamweight GOAT. That's how you know this fight fucking sucks. It's 100% guaranteed. Damn it! Fuck, man. Come on, just make me a matchmaker at this point. Make me a matchmaker. Unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable. All right? The dude, Schmitty is going to be bigger than O'Malley at the press conference. It's going to be insane. I guess, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to gaslight myself into seeing UFC 316's main event through the lens of a person that Dana White thinks is like your average MMA fan, which means I'm going to get my Sugar Show hat. I'm going to wear the 70s glasses, like the hippie 70s glasses for O'Malley man. And Yeah, dude, I'm just going to be really hyped for it, man. You can't even fake excitement for this fight. It sucks. There, on fight week, like the day of the fight, it will be somewhat interesting because there's always that chance that O'Malley could flatline whoever's in front of him. That is always possible. That's possible. Let's be honest. He didn't tag Merab with a good shot in the first round last time. Merab got the takedown, banked the round before O'Malley could land a shot. But if O'Malley lands the shot before Merab gets the takedown, we could see a viral moment. So there is always that aspect to an O'Malley fight. An O'Malley fight can never be something that has no intrigue. But you sort of get what I'm saying. Like, the talk about the O'Malley and Merab fight is just not interesting. There's no debate. It's just not intriguing at all. Whereas we're a month away from the Garry and Prates fight, basically, and that fight is amazing. We're on the frickin'... We're going to be breaking down the X's and O's. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Until next time.